What's going on, guys, and welcome to Who to Sign For. Now in this series I'm giving you my recommendations on what players to sign for a specific team in career mode. Before we go on, I will say that the signings you'll see aren't designed to be realistic, and the player ratings and potentials of the players may vary depending on what database you're using and how they perform for you during the season. Obviously you don't have to follow all the tips. This is really just a set of guidelines to give you a hand if you're stuck for ideas and want some suggestions on what players you could sign for a certain club. This is mainly aimed at those you either who may be new to the game. I just need a little bit of advice, or for those of you out there who want a few recommendations on what players to sign for a team that you may be using in career mode this year. And in today's episode of Who to Sign For, guys, we're going to take a look at one of the old teams of Italy, one of the famous old teams who perhaps in recent years haven't been as noteworthy in the big time as they once were. It's been over 20 years since they last won a Serie A title, but if you are looking for a rebuild in the Serie A, I don't think there's a better team to use than these guys. Yes, it is of course Lazio of the beautiful city of Rome playing at the Stadio Olimpico, sharing with their great rivals AS Roma. And as you can see, they're a 4.5-star team. They've got a budget of around 44 to 45 million pounds, so really solid starting budget. And the objectives in the first season, domestically, definitely doable. Finish in the top 4, qualify for the Champions League, reach the quarterfinal of the Coppa Italia. That's a very simple one. But the difficult one is to win the Europa League. Last season, just gone past. I think it got to the quarters before being knocked out by Porto. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But even so, that's the tough objective of the three. The domestic objectives, though, reasonably simple, I would say. Lazio did finish in 5th this year, just behind Juventus in 4th. But I would definitely say, because the Serie A is such an interesting league now, you know, Juventus' dominance is over, as we know. It's a really, really kind of free-for-all type of division, where in the first season, unlike the Bundesliga, where you think only one or two teams are going to win it, unlike in the Premier League, where really it's been Liverpool and Man City for the past few years, it's a free-for-all type of division where really there's like 5 or 6 teams that could possibly go and win it. So to finish in the top 4 is definitely doable in the first season. Now, as I run you through the Lazio team, the one thing you'll notice is it's a reasonable squad of reasonable quality, but the reason why I said this is probably the best team in the Serie A, or that I can think of, for a rebuild is because, quite frankly, it's a really, really, really old team. Yet there are a lot of seniors here. With Maurizio Sarri in charge, I suppose that's not a surprise. The former Napoli, Chelsea and Juve boss preferring a few of those senior players here. Great in real life. In FIFA career mode, it's the opposite. You will want to shift them on. Now, there are several players deals coming the end of the year. I'd only give out 3 contracts, and definitely to these 2 guys here as well. Strakosha, who will be your number 1, starting overall 79 and grows 3 ratings as well. And Luis Felipe too. If you've been watching my Who to Sign For series this year, you'll know I signed him in so many episodes, and the reason being is very simple. He's young, he's 79 rated, and he grows 5 ratings to 84 overall as well. He's your long-term successor to Akabi. I'd also recommend recalling Joaquin Correa, from Inter Milan. He's got more than enough ability in this team to be a regular squad member, and it also changed the position of Lazari as well. Now, he's a right back in this team by trade, but you look at his stats here, high-low work rates, low strength, defensive stats, reasonable, but there's no doubt about it. This guy would be much more threatening on the other end of the pitch. So I'd recommend retraining him from right back to right wing. I think you'll get a lot more out of Lazari playing further forward, and I'd recommend bringing in a new right back regardless. Still with Lazio, you saw the transfer list there. Loads of players need to go. It's not the thickest of squads with Lazio, but you've got to make this side younger. There are quite a few players that you'd classify as perhaps deadwood, if you will. Akpro, for example, going to Newcastle for £6 million. Patrick, for example. Radu, who's now in his 30s. You want to shift these players on, because if they're in their late 20s or their 30s, they're probably not going to get any better, and their starting overalls could definitely be improved upon. Perhaps they have roles to play in the first team in the first season, but going forward with Lazio in 2 or 3 years, they just wouldn't offer any kind of weight to this team at all. So I would recommend selling them as soon as possible and bringing in younger replacements. And with Lazio, we saw the team a moment ago there, the one area of the pitch that needs major improvement is the defense. Lazio basically need an entire new back line. You know, I mean, Strakosha and Luis Felipe are out of contract at the end of the season. If they were to go, you'd need a whole new back four and goalkeeper. Of course, we kept them, so in the end, what we need is a new left back, a new centre back to replace the aging Akabi, and also a new right back as well. And the right back I would sign for Lazio is the AC Milan, now Serie A champion, David Calabria. He starts off 79 overall, so he's the same rating as Maricic, but he's 4 years younger, and he's got 81 or possibly 82 potential as well. Calabria to me will be a great option because you can get him for around £20 million, and that's an absolute bargain. Being Italian is a really nice feel as well. And yeah, Maricic to me, like he's decent, don't get me wrong, at 79 overall, but at 28 years old, it's better to get someone younger. You want to replace this aging Lazio backline, form a new identity at the Stadio Olimpico, bring in some good young Italian talent. Calabria definitely matches that criteria. But as I mentioned a moment ago there, needing a whole new backline, you definitely do want a new left back. Now, you've got a left back out on loan right now at Sparta Rotterdam. He's not got the most ability though, and he's also in his late 20s. Hysaj has been brought in this season as a versatile two-sided fullback, so he can play both left back and right back. He is a right-footed player naturally, but I think you want a much better left back. In the entire back four, you need a new left back, you probably need a new right back, and you need at least new one centre back as well. I would spend big on your new left back, and the player I'd recommend is the Dutch left back playing for Feyenoord, Tyrell Malafia. You might have to spend around 30 mil to get him. That's a lot of money, especially for Lazio's good transfer budget, but not astronomical. But let me tell you, this guy will be worth every single penny of that 30 mil you're probably going to pay. He starts off 79 overall, so he'll be going right into your first 11. He's got high medium work rates. He's absolutely rapid. He's great on the offensive. He's got a great crucial stat for me. I think balance is a really underrated stat as well. 89 already at just 21 years old, and he's got 86 potential as well. So he grows 7 ratings. He'll become one of the best left backs in European football when he's peaking in your Lazio team. I definitely recommend him to replace Hysaj and be his starting left back in this Lazio side. Definitely sell Francesco Akabi as well. Now, he is one of the highest rated players in the team at 83 overall, but he's also 33 years old. Yeah, this Lazio team, like I mentioned, it's full of old players. You need to make this squad younger. And again, a great starting overall. It makes him your highest rated defender here, but he's going to decline rapidly in the first season. I'll take whatever you can get for Akabi, even if it's only valuation. In the end, we secured a really good deal with Borussia Dortmund, £22 million there as he goes to the Signal Iduna Park. But yeah, he might be high rated now, but trust me on this, because players decline so quickly in FIFA Cremo when they're in their mid-30s, and Akabi is already 33, he's going to go down to 80, possibly even 79 rated at the end of Season 1. Sell, bring in someone with similar ability, but much, much younger. So on the back of selling Lucas Leiva and Pepe Reina, the former Liverpool boys, both going to Spain there, we would agree a deal for a new centre-half. And like I said, you've got to replace Akabi. You don't want to take a massive step down, because his first-team quality when you take over at 83 is really good. But you can afford to drop a rating or two if you're going to get a much younger player who's got really solid potential. My pick for the new Lazio centre-half player alongside Luis Felipe is the guy who's about to join Barcelona on a free transfer. It's Andreas Christensen, right now registered as a Chelsea player in the game. Whilst he is going to join Barca on a free transfer, you can get him for under the valuation as his contract's upcoming at the end of the year. We spent 27 million to bring the Dane to the Stadio Olimpico, and it's an absolute bargain because he starts off 82 rated. Yes, he's a rating lower than Akabi to begin with, but he's also 8 years younger, and he grows to 86 overall as well. I think Christensen is the perfect fit for this Lazio team. Playing alongside Luis Felipe as your centre-half duo, I think he'll do really well. And like I said, Lazio, they need a new back line. Don't be afraid to spend a bulk, if not all of your transfer budget on those new defenders. One new centre-half if you keep Luis Felipe, one new left-back, one new right-back. If you've got to spend a vast majority of your money on this, just those 3 players, believe me, it's worth doing. Lazio's defense needs a major upgrade, and it needs to get younger as well. So after that, we sold Radu, the veteran centre-half, to Rayo Vallecano in Madrid. And we did change the position of Lazari as well. He grew 2 ratings to 81 overall, because once again, this guy, is a right-back. He can do the job, but when you look at his stats, combined with a high-low work rate too, there's no doubt about it. This guy should be playing further up the pitch. He's a winger that's been converted to full-back, in my opinion. He'd be much, much more effective in Lazio's 4-3-3, playing on the wing. That's exactly what we did. He grew 2 ratings to 81 overall, and he'll be a really solid player to give some competition for your current wingers Felipe Anderson and Zakagny, for example. So yeah, I'd definitely change position there. And we also sold Patrick as well for 5 mil to Hoffenheim. His deal's not coming at the end of the year, and again, as a squad player, mid-70 overall, 28 years old, he's not that bad, but again, what you want to do with his Lazio team is make it younger. The defense is really old, the team in general is really old, so if you can get whatever kind of money you can for the Spaniard there, I'd just take the cash and run, and then look to reinvest in a younger player. And even if that player you're bringing in might be lower rated to begin with, if he's younger and got more potential, it'll be worth doing. The player I'd sign to replace both Radu and also Patrick is this guy, and I'm laughing, so I remember this negotiation was so funny. It's Nicolo Casale of Hellas Verona. Now, this guy starts off 73 overall, so yes, a couple of ratings lower than Radu, but at just 23 years old, he's got 81 potential, so he's more than good enough to be a third choice centre-half behind Luis Felipe and Christensen, and when he's peaking, it'll be a really good backup option at 80 to 81 overall, which is his potential. I found it so funny though, because we just gave Hellas Verona 100 grand, and Pedro is 34 years old, of course, worked with Sarri at Chelsea. I would sell him in the first season. Because he's in his 30s, he's going to decline rapidly. He's only 78 overall to begin with. I thought that was quite interesting for Pedro, going to Hellas Verona. Not sure that was quite in his plans, but even so, we swapped him there, so barely paid a penny in the end for Casale. A much better deal for Lazio as we try and make this side younger. And of course, we sold Pepe Reina earlier back to, I think it was Espanyol. Obviously, he wants to play for Barcelona, now playing for their local rivals, Espanyol. You will want a new backup goalkeeper with Lazio. Obviously, because Strakosha will be your number one. He doesn't need to be, in the high 70s for overall to give competition for Strakosha. All he needs to do is be good enough as a bench warmer with potential. The player I'd recommend, well, I always recommend him. You knew who it was going to be. Martin van der Voort of KRC Genk. You can get this guy for around £3 to £5 million, somewhere within that range, and that's a really big bargain because, as a teenage talent, he's one of the best young goalkeepers in the game. 71 overall is his starting rating, and you'll be thinking, hang on a minute, 7 ratings lower than Pepe Reina? Yeah, but he's almost 2 decades younger than the Spaniard. Yes, very young goalkeeper, much younger than Pepe Reina, who will decline rapidly in the first season, whereas for Van der Voort, he's got 84 potential, and when he's peaking, he'll replace Strakosha as your number one. I also decided to change Hysaj's position from left back to right back. As I mentioned him earlier, the Albanian is a two-sided fullback. He spent an equal amount of time playing both left back and right back, so we can do either role. I'd convert him to right back personally though, as a backup for Calabria, because you're going to sell Marisic, as we did right here, to Porto for 14.5 mil, and Italy have got a couple of really decent young left backs. Udogi, who unfortunately can't sign in the first season because he's out on loan, Cambiasso as well. So after we sold Marisic to Porto here, and we changed the position of Hysaj from left back to right back, you'll see the season ticket sales came in here. Combined with the money we just got from Marisic, we were up to around £27 million, and I did decide to make a couple more signings as well. We changed Hysaj again from left back to right back. If you want, that means that you've now got your backup right back now that Marisic has gone for Calabria. You can recall your man out on loan or sign a new backup left back for Malafia, but with the money we had remaining, I really wanted a new central midfielder. Obviously, we'd sold Lucas Leiva. He was the highest rated anchor man in this team, but of course at 34 years old, we want to make this side younger, and I thought this guy would be a great replacement. Now, unfortunately, who I really wanted had left in this summer window. It's Boubacar Kamara. I'd make him your number one target for a DM with Lazio because you can get him for around 22 mil, and the Frenchman starts off at 80 overall with 86 potential. Unfortunately, in this save, he'd joined our division and local rivals Roma, but I wouldn't be against recommending this guy as a sort of B option, if you will, for your backup holding midfielder. There are a couple of players who I'd recommend actually. Ibrahim Sangare of PSV Eindhoven would do a good job. Fratesi of Sassuolo if you're going for that Italian feel as well. But I opted for this guy from Celta Vigo. It's Fran Beltran. This is a great deep line playmaker. He's 23 years old, I believe, 22 years old even, but starts off 77 rated. He might be a little lad at just 5'5", but with medium-high work rate. You look at his passing stats here: 82 long pass, 79 short pass as well, 77 vision. He's got great ball retention stats, and if you train his defensive work rate up to high, if you make sure you improve his reasonably low strength, get his stamina stamina up as well. He'll be a great anchor man in this team. 77 is his starting overall, but he grows to the low to mid 80s. So the final two signings I picked up were a couple of young Italian talents. I mentioned there after I converted Hazard from left back to right back. He is a right-footed player by trade, so as the backup for Calabria, that seemed like a good position change for me. I mentioned Italy do have some decent young talent at the left back role. One of those players is Andrea Cambiasso. He has been linked to some big Italian teams for this summer transfer window, but he's a solid young left wing back. He's got some okay stamina, some okay pace. A long way to go, of course, but you can get him on a really cheap deal, and he's got 80 potential as well, so he'll grow into be a great backup left back for Malafia here at the Stadio Olimpico. And I had to bring this guy in as well. Congratulations to winning the Swiss Super League with FC Zurich for Wilfried Gnonto, and what a fantastic couple of months it's been for this young striker, because not only did he win the Swiss Super League with FC Zurich, but he's also won his first 2 caps at senior Italian level under Roberto Mancini. Yep, it is indeed Wilfried Gnonto, 17 years old, 65 rated. Guys, keep your eye on this young striker. He is a teenage talent and then some. He might not have the best goal to game ratio with Zurich, but he's been thrown in at the deep end by the Swiss team because they definitely see potential in him, and he has got great potential in the game as well. He's a rapid young striker. He might only be 5'7", but his strength is actually pretty decent for a small-ish striker, if you will, at 67. That will, of course, improve over time. He'll become a bit of a physical beast in this team, and again, 83 potential. You can get him now for around 1.5 mil. That's a dirt cheap deal because he's going to be worth a lot more than that when he's peaking. Yeah, great young striker to watch out for as the years go by in European football. So the final signing I made was a new centre-half. Also, we sold quite a few centre-backs here with Lazio, Akabi, Radu, Patrick, for example. Obviously, we signed in Christensen and Casale as well, but I would recommend a fourth choice for the reserves as well. And this is a good young Italian talent who won't cost you much. It's Lorenzo Parola, who's currently at Monza right now. I believe he's actually on loan there from Inter Milan, but in the game he's listed as a permanent Monza player. I would pick him up for around his valuation, which is a really cheap deal. He's only 64 rated, yes, but at just 19 years old. Great teenage talent, and he can get plus 80 overall when he's peaking as well. So definitely worth picking up, in my opinion. So, with Lazio, my goodness, what a rebuild. And I wasn't lying when I said they're probably the best rebuild team in the Serie A. We sold 7 players for 55.35 mil and signed 9 players for just shy of 110 mil. It was a net loss of around 54.25 million, but when you look at the team now, I said with Lazio, they need a new backline. We've got one. Luis Felipe and Strakosha signed extensions. Calabria, Christensen and Malafia all came in to improve the backline. I said this team needs to get younger. It did. We had teenage talents like Van der Voort, Parola, Cambiasso all joining and making this side much younger with higher potential for the future. And the question is, with Lazio in the first season, could we hit those objectives? Domestic, reasonable, reach the quarterfinal of Coppa Italia, easy, and then of course finishing the top 4 as well. The difficult objective was to try and win the Europa League this year. Well, as we'd simulate the end of the season, we'd see how our Lazio team would get on in season 1 under Sarri, and as you can see, well, there was a cup final, but it wasn't in Europe. Now, I felt very confident we'd done our Serie A objective, and we did miss out on the Coppa Italia in the end. We went all the way to the final, only to lose to Juventus by 3-0. But as I stopped the simulation here, I wasn't too fussed because Lazio won the Serie A. I was absolutely buzzing when I saw that. And I was wondering why my manager rating was so low, and more on that in a moment. But Lazio won the Serie A. And like I said, the Serie A is so interesting this year as we finished 4 points clear of Juve in second and 5 clear of Milan and Roma. Because there are just so many teams that could possibly win it. It's a real free-for-all this year. Whoever wins the Serie A in season 1 could be anyone's guess, really. You know, it's not going to be a definite Bayern or potentially a Dortmund in the Bundesliga, for example, or in the Liga and a definite PSG. It's a real free-for-all. It could be Inter, it could be AC Milan, it could be Juve once again, it could be Lazio, it could be Napoli. I mean, it really is a free-for-all in the first season, so Lazio winning this Serie A, I was buzzing off of that. The Coppa Italia went all the way to the final, as you will see. Look at that second leg overturn, by the way, there, against Inter 4-0, but unfortunately did come up short in the final 3-0. But the Europa League is the reason why my manager rating was so so low. We topped our group, made it through to the last 16, but very unlucky here. We got drawn against Paris Saint-Germain, who were knocked out of their Champions League group. We got drawn against them. That's just the luck of the draw there. Very unlucky. They went to the final, only to lose to Leverkusen. So, yeah, European objective was a failure, no doubt about that. I can imagine that's why manager rating dropped so low. But domestically, I mean, that is a major success for Lazio. Reaching the final of the Coppa Italia and picking up their first Serie A title since the year 2000. Yep, over 2 decades without a Serie A title. We ended that way in season 1, and I was buzzing because I felt very confident we finished top 4 watching the simulation go by. But when I backed out, I was buzzing to see us actually win the whole thing. But I guess I wasn't that surprised because, again, as I mentioned a moment ago there, the Serie A in season 1, it's a free-for-all, man. It really is. Like, anyone can win it I say anyone. Anyone of the, traditional big teams, if you will, have a chance of winning it. It was AC Milan this year, the year before Inter, the year before Juve. 3 different winners over the past 3 years. Doesn't happen that often nowadays in the major European leagues, but Lazio have a good chance, Napoli have a good chance, Roma have a good chance. It's a brilliant league to manage in this year, the Serie A, because really the first season is wild. It's chaotic. Anyone can win it, and in the end, it was us. I was buzzing, and this was without a question, without a shadow of a doubt, my favourite who to sign for of the entire year if you were 22. And I've got to be honest here, man, like seriously, if you're looking for a summertime fun series before FIFA 23 comes out, give Lazio a go, man. They're absolutely brilliant to use. If you can handle the fact they don't have the real badge and the real kits, which is a shame due to the licensing issue, they are such a fun team to use. And to be fair, I actually really like the generic badge and the generic kits as well. I know it's strange, most of the generic badges and kits for the unlicensed teams are, pretty basic at best, but I actually quite like Lazio's kits in this game, and the badge too. But even so, great team to do a rebuild with, man. Seriously, you got the young wonder kid Romero, just 16 years old, but other than him, it's a really old team, man. You got the veteran goalkeeper Reina, Lucas Leiva, Akabi, etc, etc, etc. They all need to be shifted on in season 1. It needs to get much younger, and you can really build and assemble your own core here with Lazio for all the years, bringing in young talent and developing this team and getting them back into the big time. It's a great team to use. I don't think there's a better team in the Serie A for a rebuild. I had so much fun rebuilding this side, and guys, I encourage you all, give Lazio a go. They're a great team in this year's career mode. But that will end today's episode of Your Sign For, guys. Big thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't, please drop a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you for next episode of Who to Sign For very soon.